Hello and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place where we share creative and inspiring learning in our schools. Hello and welcome back to Education on Fire. Today I'd like to welcome Janice Mardell, who's the head teacher of Overstone Primary School. And I've been visiting the school over the last few weeks of the autumn term here as part of the First Access project for the Northamptonshire Music and Performing Arts Trust. And we've been doing some samba workshops, which I'm pleased to say we've got a concert coming up in the next week or so, which is going to be very exciting to show exactly what we've been up to. The reason I asked to come in and have this interview was just because I've talked quite a lot in the opening episodes about how the school environment is really important for children's learning, and a real sort of sense of having a growth mindset and actually feeling themselves in order to want to learn. And that's exactly what I've experienced during this school. The staff have been incredibly kind and supportive, and as soon as you walk into the school, through every member of staff that I've actually had contact with, the children have been really keen to learn, and their behaviour and discipline has been absolutely impeccable, but not because they had to. I sort of got the sense they were doing it because they wanted to get as much out of the session as they possibly could, and that just seems a really good bed, a good sort of real sort of rock solid bed to actually learn from. So thanks very much for having me today.
Thank you for coming.
And could we just start, could you just explain a little bit about the school in terms of the size of the school and the number of children and how the setup is here?
Yes, so we're situated in the village of Overstone. We have some of our children who come from Overstone village itself, and then we also have quite a few pupils who come from the eastern side of Northampton, Rectory Farm, Southfields, around those areas, some children from surrounding villages as well. We have 105 pupils on roll, so we admit 15 children into reception at the moment. And then as they move through the school, they're taught in classes of 30 with two age groups in a class. So we have year 1 and 2 together, year 3, 4 together, and year 5, 6 together.
Lovely. So it's really good to get a picture of sort of the school setup, and as you said, it's a village school here in the Northamptonshire countryside, just outside of Northampton. And I guess the first question that people may ask is the fact that the feeling of the school is so sort of community-based and sort of feels like a really great family. Is that purely because of the size of the school and the fact that everyone knows each other, or is there a bit more to it than that, do you think?
I think that's part of it. I think it's lovely that the school is small so that everyone knows everyone else, and we all know all of the children and also the families who are involved in the school. But also because of the activities that we do at school, we encourage that communication with the people in the village, surrounding neighbours. So we have events at school where we encourage the children to communicate with the local community. For example, recently we had our Harvest Festival. So in the morning, the children performed for their parents and friends, and then in the afternoon, our older children, the year 6s, hosted a tea party for members of the village community. So they came into school and the children served them tea and cake and chatted to them. And that's a really important skill for the children as well, I think, to have the opportunity to do that and to communicate with adults in that kind of forum, really. In the summer, we had the year 5, 6 class were doing a project about Britain, so they hosted a traditional afternoon tea, again for people in the village, the local WI, as well as parents, friends of the school as well. And in the playground, we had the children entertain them with dancing, served them traditional afternoon tea, and it was lovely to have the whole community coming together. So I think as well as being small, which means that all the children, the adults, we all know each other, and the families, we also encourage the children to feel that sense of community spirit and respect for other people, for adults and for each other and for themselves as well. So
that's a really key point. Is I was just waiting for the class to come in the last couple of weeks. I see you've got some of your sort of ethos things and up on the wall of the hall. Could you just take me through what some of those are? And I just came to mind to me there, because the respect one was the one that really caught my eye. Not because you do often hear about respecting people and treat them as you'd like you to be treated yourself and that kind of thing, but it was the fact that I really noticed it was respecting yourself enough to be yourself. Is that one of the key things? And I think that's an incredibly important thing. The fact that being yourself and being your true authentic self is probably the most important thing that you can be, in order to then shine your light as much as you can to support everyone else around you.
Yes.
So could you just expand on that a little bit?
Yes, and I think as adults in school, we look for ways to develop confidence and self-respect within children. We do have school values that we promote throughout the school. So we have a values tree, and when children show these values, we write them down and put them on the tree. So we celebrate that. We do lots of work on things like positive learning behaviours. So children work on resilience, independence, and actually self-belief. So if you think you can't do something, I can't do it yet. You can do it, and you need to challenge yourself and believe in yourself, and then you will learn and succeed. So the values, we do lots of work in things like assemblies, and there are always occasions that come up when you can celebrate a child displaying one of the school values. So it's just making sure that you actually pick up on those and celebrate them with the children. And I think every child has that need to feel valued and to increase their confidence and to know that they can do great things if they have that self-belief, which is so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's absolutely true. And where those values, do they come from you? Are they long-standing within the school? Is it a governing body thing, or how has that been developed over the years?
We tend to develop things as a community as well. So, for example, we've recently looked at our school vision, and in order for us to create our vision, we asked all of our parents, all of our pupils, all of our staff, we gave them some words and phrases, and they would choose which ones they felt were important to the school and which ones they felt were relevant, and that was what the school meant to them. And then we collated them all together. So it meant that every stakeholder in the school felt that they had a part of building that vision. And I think then if people do that, then they believe in it because they've created it and they feel that they've had that personal involvement. So those have kind of evolved through things like that in assemblies or in class, in school councils, things like that. We talk to the children and they will say what's important to them, and they'll listen to their peers and come to conclusions themselves. So they all feel that they've had some ownership of that. And then you find that children actually display those values more because they actually see that they're important. Yeah, sure. And you also, I love the tree idea where you're celebrating what's already happening, and rather than kind of this is what we're trying to attain or what we're trying to do, it's this is happening, this is the experience that you've experienced in that scenario, and here we are celebrating it. And that really does seem to be key through all the staff as well as the children as well. And why do you think that's the case? How have you managed to achieve that, which I'd see on quite a lot of websites and on quite a lot of literature that schools put out, but it's very rare to actually feel it literally permeating all the way through the school, including the staff and the children, through absolutely everyone that you see. How have you managed to achieve that, do you think? Well, I think personally that people are your greatest resource, and that everybody within the school has a really important role to play. So whatever their role is, it's important. And I try very hard to make sure that people feel that people feel appreciated and that people feel valued for what they do, whether they're children or adults in school. And even just little things like on a Friday, we always have Jacket Potato Friday. So I provide jacket potatoes and people just bring along a filling, and it's just an opportunity for everyone to go into the staff room for lunch, because everyone's so busy, it rarely happens that everyone's in the staff room together. So it means because it's hot food and you've got to go there to get it, we'll all actually be there together, and it's an opportunity for us to, and people like that because it makes them feel that they are valued and important, and that what they're doing in school is so vital. You know, every cog has to be turning to make the whole thing work as well as it does. So I think just the fact that, like the children, adults as well feel valued and important and able to develop, you know, in what they're good at. So I think you sort of been able to celebrate what you're good at and what you can achieve. And I think
especially seeing staff that are authentic with themselves, I think the children pick up on that. It's not about what you're trying to impart in them, as it were, in terms of knowledge and that sort of thing, or just sort of trying to say the right thing. It's actually when they come alive with things that they're interested in and how they truly feel, then I think that really just comes across in a non-verbal way. It's not actually a conscious decision, but if they're happy and really enjoying their experience as a teacher and learning themselves, I think that really comes across to the children too.
And I think it's difficult because life's so busy and teaching's so busy, and there are so many demands. There's so much that's expected of everybody. Sometimes it's just making that time to say thank you for something that someone's done, and to say, you know, that was really great and that's had a big impact on that child or on that class, and taking that time to actually thank people and make them, because I do appreciate everyone, but sometimes it's just remembering to actually say that and make people realise that, you know, that they are appreciated. So
I think that's it, and I think how you feel is the most important thing. And we all know what it's like to receive that support from somebody, and I think, like I say, sometimes it's just a slightly mindful thing, isn't it, just to make sure that it comes across whenever you get the chance to do that. And it's certainly something I've experienced when I've come in for my few weeks, is that it's very natural. It happens all the time, and it doesn't mean anything other than just, it feels like family. It's the sort of support that you would hope you feel in that sort of warm, cosy way, hopefully within your home life as well. And I think that really just gives an atmosphere and a way of learning which is incredibly supportive for not only the pupils that are here learning, but also from the teachers and all the support staff and everything as well, because I think that just means they want to give more, because that's the ethos and the understanding and feeling of the school. Yes,
I think actually you saying that, one of the children wrote a poem at the end of term which they sent to me, but it said, one of the lines said that school makes me feel safe like I do when I'm at home. And I thought that's really lovely, because that means that they're so comfortable. You know, if a child is feeling safe, happy, comfortable, they're going to learn. You know, they need to be in that kind of state of mind to be in the best position to learn. So that's hopefully what we create, that children do feel comfortable, but they also feel that they're in an environment where they can challenge themselves and learn as well. So
yeah, I think that's really, really, really important. And the thing that I'm noticing as we're sort of talking is all these things are about the small things, or you perceive to be small. It's about being honest and saying thank you. What's deemed to be not massive changes in ways of thinking, but actually it's not the sort of thing that happens all the time necessarily. And actually they are the most important things. They are the biggest things which actually create that environment to actually come across. So I'd also like to ask how the arts and sport and that kind of thing happen in the school, because you say you're quite a small school, so therefore your facilities, I assume, are relatively limited in terms of space and that kind of thing. So how does bringing things into the school or visits out of the school, how does that work in terms of supporting the children that way?
Well, to me, I think those enrichment activities are so important. They're so important because those are where your memories are made of primary school, I think. And for lots of children, it gives them opportunities that they may not have otherwise. We try to be involved in as many enrichment activities as we can. And sometimes, for example, with the samba drums, children who may never have been exposed to music in that way, they can discover a love of something they don't even know they've got, or a talent that they didn't realise they had. We do the Junior Strictly competition, which is a strictly dancing competition in Northampton. And we've been doing that for a few years now, and it's run by a dance school in town called Step by Step. And the children enjoy it so much. They get to perform at the Derngate Theatre in Northampton, which is huge, and lots of them would never get that opportunity. Lots of them from that competition then go on to join the dance school and take up a whole new hobby that they've not ever done before. You know, I can think of one little girl in particular, and even when she's lining up to go to assembly, she's dancing. She just dances everywhere around school because she loves it so much, but she didn't do that before she went to that competition. And we recently did the year 5-6 competition, and there was one boy before we went onto the stage, and he's never volunteered to do the Strictly before, but he's year 6 and he thought, it's my last chance. I'm going to do it. And it's completely out of his comfort zone. And he stood at the side of the stage to go on and was literally rooted to the spot and was very upset, really excited. I just can't do it. I can't do it. Anyway, I took him onto the stage, and when we came off, he said, I loved it. I love that. And he said, next week, I'm going to stand up and talk in front of a group of people because that's something else I'm really afraid to do. And I thought, that's just fantastic, because that's given him so much confidence. And now, as we're speaking, the class is practising for the school Christmas play, and he's taken a speaking part, which he's never wanted to do before. And it's things like that, develop those activities, I feel, are so important for developing confidence in the children. And that's for life, that he's now got that confidence to attempt things that before he just didn't really want to try. And we've also got our School Games Gold Award for our commitment to PE and school sport, which is a brilliant achievement to me because we are a small school. So to get that award, you've got to actually access quite a few competitions and extra activities, form links with local clubs to give children opportunities for new sports, things like that. So obviously with only 15 children in a year group, it's more difficult for us to access big competitions. Northamptonshire Sport are brilliant actually, and they do put on quite a lot of activities which we go to, we've got most of our children at some point will access something like that, one of those competitions. So it doesn't matter whether they're particularly good at sport or whether it's something that they do outside school. It's just giving them those opportunities, and that's what it's about really.
Yeah, I think exposure is key really, and there'll be things that you find that you would never have experienced, like you said, which you then take up, which is exactly what happened to me when I did do music at primary school, and our primary school was very supportive, but it turned out to be secondary school where I had to learn an instrument, and I was thinking, I just want to be playing football all the time.
Yes.
And so I thought, I'll learn the drums. That's probably the best of a bad idea.
It's cool.
But we had to do it. Exactly, yeah. And it's cooler than maybe doing something else. But it was only through that opportunity which then led me to have lessons. And since then, I've played all around the world and regularly work at the Albert Hall and do lots of things which I absolutely adore, which without that little push, without that little bit of exposure, I've never had the opportunity to do. And the other thing which I really liked about what you said is the fact that because through the opportunity, children will get taken maybe slightly out of their comfort zone, but it's just how you support them then just push a little bit more, but through supporting them to gain that bit of confidence, which once they've experienced it, I think then, like you say, they can thrive. And whether it's doing a dance or whether it's speaking or whether it's taking part in an activity you've never done before, then I think that's absolutely fantastic.
And I think if you can tap into what you can see that a child is comfortable with and develop that and help that confidence to grow, then you can encourage them then to have a go. Like that boy probably wouldn't have even had a go this time if it wasn't for the fact that his teacher has actually made him more and more confident, because she's kind of tapped into things that she knows he would feel comfortable with and develop those, and it's helped him to have the confidence to attempt new things.
And I guess that's where the community comes in, and also where knowing the story of the children, knowing maybe the story of the family, and being aware of all those things so that you can, like I say, support them in a way which is going to help them in their confidence rather than sort of push them away because they're going to get scared or something. And how do you see that? I understand that you've got some development work going and the school's going to be getting a little bit bigger. How do you see that sort of as the school grows? How can you sort of keep that support as you get a few more numbers in the school? How do you sort of keep everyone knowing everybody and that support as the building work happens, and then when you've got more children in the school on a daily basis?
Well, we were only expanding to a one-form entry school. So instead of having mixed classes, we will have single year group classes. So we will take up to 30 children into reception, and then they will feed through the school as a single year group. So although we're expanding, we still remain a small school. And that community ethos is so important and so central to the school and what it's about, that we will keep that. That's what we're about and that's who we are. So we will maintain that. And I think with only having one year group, one class, for each year group, that will facilitate that quite well, because we will still have a fairly small school community, because the children will be coming from new housing which is planned on the edge of Overstone Village. They will be fairly local children as well, so we'll be able to still engage with the families as part of our local community. People will still attend those events. We'll actually have more families, so we'll be able to tap into more people's expertise, because we've often got parents who slip into a conversation, I don't know if it's accidentally, that they've got they're really good at sewing, or they work at the country park, and that could be a very useful skill, and they come to help us and support the children. So it will just give us an even greater range of expertise to tap into. So I think it's vital to us, to me, and to our school and our governors, that feeling will actually, that community feeling will still carry on through the school, because that is part of our school ethos. That's just so important to us.
I think what I like about that the most is the fact that the growing becomes an opportunity, because as you said, the more people you've got, the more talents you're likely to come across. And if you're already inviting and actually having part of the community coming into the school, then you've then just got more to offer the children that are already here. And they say you've got a bigger pool of community outside of the school that can help support you with the things that you can use to then help the children again. So the cycle just continues in a sort of a positive, expanding kind of way. And so I can see that no matter what the size of the school, because the ethos is the centre of it all, everything will just expand out there.
Yes.
And I guess so you'll need more staff as the school expands. So is there sort of the sense you get when you speak to somebody in terms of what their ethos is and the type of person they are? I guess that's just as important, if not more important, than their qualifications or their experience, because they have to fit in with the environment that you've created here.
Yes, and I think that ethos kind of permeates through the staff. And I think, talking about that dance competition we were talking about earlier, that was on a Saturday at the Derngate, and we had, to everyone, we've always had at least 15 members of staff who come on that day. We only have about 20 staff in total if you take everyone into account, and those staff paid to come to the theatre on a Saturday and support the children. And that's the way it is. And the children see them all there, and how everyone really wants to be part of that and encourage them. And I think that will always carry on, because that's just the way we are. That's the way we operate. And people who come into the school tend to adopt that same ethos, because that's what the school's about. So, and
from my point of view, coming in as a visiting teacher, as it were, doing the samba, that was just very apparent from day one. What my groups always start off by sitting in a circle and just doing rhythm games and giving the children a sense of pulse, which is what you need for the music side of it, but it gives them a bit of confidence in terms of saying their name out loud on their own, or their favourite colour, or their favourite whatever it happens to be. Just things which kind of just increase that confidence, and in a supportive community way, and also in an ensemble way, because obviously as we start to introduce instruments, they have to support each other within a small group ensemble as well as a whole class ensemble. But the fact that the staff, I didn't have to ask them to take part; they just took part, because of course that's what you would do. Exactly. And it seems so obvious when it happens, but you'd be amazed the number of times I go into a school and they just think it's a great chance to do some marking or that kind of thing, and I think just because that obviously isn't the case here, and because they wanted to take part, the children then see that everyone's learning together, because it's not necessarily a skill that the staff would have done before. And then the whole thing becomes a growing and a learning experience for everyone involved. And I certainly learn everything every week, because someone says something which you just think, I've not thought of it that way before, or I've not been asked that before, or can we just try this? And I think, well, actually, yeah, we really could. And so the whole thing grows for me, as well as the staff and the children. And like I said, it's the everyone being involved and being part of the journey, whatever that journey happens to be, which really is really so important, I think. So it seems that the parents do play quite a big role. Do you think that's mainly because the parents would automatically want to be involved in the school because that's the type of nice parents and children that you have? Or do you think it's more of a two-way street? It's the fact that the way the school is and the ethos of the school permeates back to the parents, and therefore it invites them in a very natural kind of way? Or
Yes, we do. We try to involve parents as much as we can. I think as a parent, it's so important to feel involved in what's happening at school, and that homeschool link is so important. So when the children start in reception, we have something called Tapestry, which is like an online tool where the teacher can communicate with the parents and let the parents can see what the child's doing at school. If the child does something at home, the parents can put a video or a photograph onto Tapestry, and you can just access your own child's profile, so you just see what's happening with your own child. And starting from there, I think we try to get parents involved in the education of the children as much as we can. We try to give the children as well opportunities for leadership so that they grow in confidence in that way. And within that, sometimes they work within events that families are involved in. So, for example, we've got our Christmas fair next week, which is run by our FOOPS Association, the Friends of Overstone Primary School, who are fantastic, actually, and do so much to support the school. But we decided last year that rather than having that as a separate thing, we would involve the children. So each of the classes is actually running their own stall, so they're making their Christmas things to sell, and they are really excited about doing that, and they tend to, call out their bargains and get really involved with it. So those sorts of things that parents would attend and that parents are actually running, the children are involved as well. So again, it's that whole community kind of coming together.
Sure. And the making of the things for the stall, are they making them in school or are they making them at home? They're making them in school,
yeah.
I think that's really important, because it then makes everything part of what you're learning, and everything part of part of the school, because it is part of the school. It's not something extra that you're just bringing in to show or to do. It's actually integral to actually not only the event in school, but like you say, the wider community, because you've got your friends association involved in it as well, and of course it's Christmas, and like I say, you've got all the family and everyone coming to look as well. I think that's really important and a really key thing.
It's quite a good learning thing as well, because the children have a budget, so they would buy their materials to make whatever they're making, and then they can see how much their stall actually makes at the end of the event. So their idea is to try and make their money grow, obviously, as much as they can. So that's a good learning experience for them as well. And they all get really engaged with it. And, they start off perhaps having an idea that might be a little bit unreasonable, that's going to cost a lot of money to make and perhaps won't make very much profit. And that's another good learning thing. And then they come to the conclusion together of what they should actually produce in the end.
And it's based on real life, and it's based on now, isn't it? And that's the thing. So just the money side of it is maths, but it's about doing something which is now, if you have to do any kind of written work, it's based on an event and it's happening now, and it all becomes real. And I think that's the really hard thing, I think, in education, especially at the moment, which with the sort of the high sort of value on tests and that sort of thing, is actually just keeping it all relevant now. The reason you're learning this now is because it's relevant for you today, and actually having a topic or an event that's going on which is engaging at the moment, I think is really key. And I think that's partly the reason I've always enjoyed doing my sample project, is the fact that while I could talk forever about the longevity of the musicianship that they're learning and why we're doing it, the point is at the end of every session, everyone has been a musician for that whole session that we've done, and they've got something new out of it each time. And so it's relevant now, and everyone's enjoying it now, and their experience and feeling it, which I think the feeling is a really important thing, is important now. And as educators, and hopefully having a slightly broader picture of what we're trying to do for the children, we can actually then sort of point them in the right direction and give them the umbrella for them to sort of grow and, like you say, experience new things and see what they can experience a bit further afield. But that does sound absolutely brilliant.
Yes, they do. They are looking forward to it.
So is there anything else that you think the school does which really supports the whole feeling of the school, and as I said, that sort of learning environment, other than the ethos and the values that we've talked about, and the general kindness and caring that everyone has, which gives us that sort of family feeling? Is there anything else that you can pinpoint that really gives the school the learning environment that the children really enjoy?
I think the positive learning behaviours are really important, which I touched on before. So the children take responsibility for their own learning and enjoy challenging themselves, and don't worry if they get something wrong. That's part of learning, and if we all got everything right first time, we wouldn't be learning very much. So that, I think, is really important, because once they accept that, then they're confident enough to actually try things and not worry about getting things wrong. I think we try to give them opportunities for leadership, which again is very important, because that develops confidence. So we have things like, we have a sports crew who organise sports activities, who might come with us to a sports event and do like the media coverage. So they might write a report for our school blog, for our sports blog, things like that. We have play buddies who work in the playground to work with some children who perhaps find games more challenging or social situations more challenging, so they can engage them in that. We have our school council, so each class has class council meeting, and then they have their school council representatives who take their ideas to the school council, and they feel that their voice is heard, so things that they say are actually listened to and acted upon. So that's really important, because that helps to obviously make them feel part of the community in school. We have house captains, which again helps to, some children really, really thrive in that situation, who perhaps you wouldn't imagine would want to take on that role, and you see a completely different side to a child, and that sort of role can really build self-esteem and confidence. I think that's just so important. I think the community spirit we've obviously talked about a lot, which I think is really, really crucial to us. This week actually we're going to the church in Overstone, our school choir, because the villagers from Overstone are having their Christmas lunch in the church. So they've invited us to go and sing and provide some entertainment. So I'll be taking a group of children up to the church to do that. So that side of things, I think, is really crucial, and such a brilliant learning experience for the children as well, to be involved in the community. And I think just mostly the fact that, as we've said, every person within our school community, every stakeholder feels that they play an important part, including the children, the teachers, the parents, the governors, the village, everybody.
I think the biggest takeaway from today is the fact that while it all seems very natural in the school, and you literally walk in and feel like you sort of in an envelope of warmth and sort of family feeling, that none of it happens by accident. It's got real purpose. It's got real thought and understanding behind what's key to support the children and support the staff as well, which is something which is important. And I hope from today you've got an idea of some of those practices, which might be something you can take away and include in your school, or at least start to think about. And I think that general feeling that everyone's in it together, whether you're a child at a school, or whether you're a member of staff, or whether you're part of the management, everyone's got a role to do, and where you fit in, like you say, each cog is important that they're turning, and also helping the other cogs to turn and have a vision all in one place. And so I see you've got your school vision there. Would it be possible, can I take a picture of that, and I'll add it to the podcast,
yes.
and people can see exactly what you've come up with and why you've done it. So
sure.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for inviting me in and allowing me to chat to you today. It's been really interesting.
Oh, no, thank you very much for talking to me. Thank you.
And yeah, please leave a comment underneath the podcast on the website at educationonfire.com. Let us know if it's something which has touched you in any kind of way, or anything which you can expand on, and we can continue the conversations on there. Lovely. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information, please go to educationonfire.com.